Hey everybody, it's Angel from Halo Inspirations. We give you inspirations to help you spread beauty and joy through your quilting journey. Happy Hump Day to you. Whoop whoop. And Merry Christmas Wednesday. This is our last of the Christmas Wednesdays for 2021. So what are we doing today? It is a second Santa Cookie Rug. I absolutely love Santa Cookie Rugs. Somewhere to put all of those cookies and milk and hot cocoa and carrots and all the things that you leave out for Santa, just in a nice little place to call your own. Maybe even your note, right? And this is what she looks like. So, where did I get this inspiration? I will tell you, isn't it, darling? I will tell you, when I start to design, do you know that Christmas, you can get Christmas shows or movies all year, like Netflix and different things. You can find them always. So to get into the spirit, I always watch Christmas movies. And for this particular inspiration, what I kept coming across was the snow globe. Okay. It was like Santa, in all these different movies, Santa has this magical snow globe. And when you shake it up, it can transport you. It can make you, allow you to see into the North Pole. You can make a Christmas wish. And if you believe, magic begins to happen, right? And I just fell in love with the idea of all that beautiful snow inside that snow globe, bringing that Christmas magic. It just makes it so beautiful. And it really starts to touch your heart. So this particular Santa Cookie Rug is my version of a snowflake. So as each snowflake falls to the ground, it brings that wonderment and that realization also that snowflakes can, each one of them is very unique. Every snowflake is different and unique, and that will be the same for every quilter and every Santa Cookie Rug. Each one can have its own uniqueness, just like the snowflakes inside the snow globe. So that's where the inspiration came from. And I actually had a different design, but I decided the way I was going with it, not everybody had all the things that I was thinking, and it could have added a lot of difficulty. And I wanted something fun and something fast and something very pretty. So what is it that you'll need to make this? Listen, it doesn't take much, okay? And with mine, this red is, well, both the red and the off-white are both from Christmas at Buttermilk Acres, the line that's designed by Stacy West of Buttermilk Basin for Riley Blake Designs. And the red is Vines Brick and the white is Snowflake Cream. So that's what I use. But for that red or the background, you'll actually need a 1/4 yard, okay? And that includes, we do have a border on here, so that does include this small border. And for the white, 1 6.5-inch strip with a fabric. Now I'll break down the measurements of each one of these, so in case you're using your stash or your scraps, you'll be able to make that utilizing different things. But that's all it took was a 6.5-inch strip to get all of the white, okay? Backing, you'll need about a 20-inch square of fabric, and you're binding 2 strips with a fabric. That's it. I mean, super easy, super fun. And let us go ahead, bring up the magic of Christmas, and get our snowflakes started. See you in just a second. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is bring you in and show you all the blocks that you'll need to cut for this so awesome snowflake, right? So I'm going to bring you in over here because I've got everything laid out. Let's talk about that first. So what you're going to need is, in your snowflake color, you'll need whatever color you want your snowflake to be. You'll need 1 6.5-inch square, 12 3-inch squares, and 8 2.5-inch squares. In your background color, you'll need 12 3-inch squares and 8 2.5-inch squares. Now let me go ahead and tell you what I did do. I cut a 6.5-inch strip, okay, going towards the selvage, so with the fabric. And then I was able to cut all of the rest of the squares from that rest of that 6.5-inch fabric. Now it will depend on how much fabric you have, if you're using leftovers from something. So that's why I want to make sure to tell you everything that you do need. But if you're working with a fabric, and I'll say 40 inches, right, of workable fabric, you should be able to get 1 6.5-inch square, cut that strip, okay, with the fabric, and then with the remaining, I cut 2 3s at a time because these are 3-inch squares, so I get 2 out of the 6.5. I was able to get all of the 12 and the 2.5-inch squares right behind that. So 1 6.5-inch strip is really all I needed with the fabric, but just to give you an idea. And then for this side, I actually did 1 strip of 3-inch, and you need 12 of those, and I was able to get more. So out of the remnants, I got the 2.5, but then I had to cut another strip of 2.5. Okay. And that doesn't include our border. So we'll get to that later, but currently this is what you'll need just to build the snowflake part. So this is my snowflake and this is my background. So the first thing is to cut all the fabric, and then just like last week, but I'm going to go over it really quickly again, we're going to make 24 half square triangles. Okay. So I'm going to take 1 3-inch square of my background and 1 3-inch square of my fabric that I'm using for the snowflake. Okay. And I put them right sides together, and I'm actually going to color on the back side of the red. And I know we got that glare. Now this, I actually am using the white dotted line on the Creative Grid 6.5-inch ruler. Your ruler, it doesn't matter what size you use, as long as you can go corner to corner. I lay on top the 1/4-inch line going to the points of the corner. I'll take my disappearing wonderful ink. You can find these in the shop. I'm addicted to these. Okay, I think I should have bought stock. But I'm just going to draw a line. So that's a 1/4-inch away from that diagonal corner to corner. We'll go ahead and turn this around and line that up again, point to point. It's always fun to do this with sitting down. It's kind of different and not like right in front of me, right? I need y'all to be able to see in the camera here a little bit. So I've got my 2 lines drawn out, and again, we'll use these today. we're going to be cutting down the middle of these 2 lines. We're going to sew on either side, and because we're cutting down the middle, I am going to stitch on this line. I'm going to stitch right next to it. You always want to stitch on the side closest to where you're going to cut. So on this line, I'll stitch right next to it as best as I can next to it, and then we'll cut them in half. So I'm going to actually chain piece as many as I can, and I'm going to try and get through before all 12, because when you put the 2 12-inch stacks together, you're going to have 12 piles all ready to go and marked. And I'm just going to chain piece one side, turn them around, chain piece the other side. I'll bring you in to show you that, but then afterwards we're going to cut down the middle, okay? So that's the beginning to this. Listen, y'all, this is easy, fast, and fun. So I'm going to go ahead and get my sewing machine ready, get the camera out for you, and we'll go from there, doing a little bit of chain piecing. And if you're new to quilting, I'll explain exactly what that is and why I do it. And but then we'll go from there. So I'll see you guys in just a sec. Okay, so here we are at my sewing machine. I am using a gray thread, the Orifil 2600 50 weight. I'm thinking, I know you're going to be able to see it and that's the idea, right? So that you can actually see some of the stitches when I go to turn this around. But I went back and forth. I might have used a red to match the red, but just know that your red may poke out and show against the white. But at any rate, it really doesn't matter in my opinion. For me, it doesn't. But if it's something you worry about, just know that, you know, some people like to match to their darker color. Okay, so because I already have one loaded back here, and I'm going to go through this at a time speed, but this is chain piecing, okay? I haven't broken thread, and I'm simply loading the next one in. And if you'll note, well, maybe you won't notice. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this back underneath my needle, okay? And I'm going to stitch on this line towards the inside as best as I can in a camera and get this thing rolling, and then I'll show you the next one real quick. You will also notice that I do have my 1/4 inch seam guide loaded. You don't need it right now. We're not sewing the 1/4 inch, but I don't want to move it. So, because it is lined up for me. So there's the first one. Again, I'm not breaking thread. This is chain piecing in case you're new. Now, if I were to start to sew on this one, on this line over here, instead of this line, if I went ahead and loaded that, I'm going to run into the block behind it. So I flip and flop each one. So now I'm going to sew on this line, on this side, okay, going towards the center, okay, and I'll just keep going back and forth with each block so that I don't hit the one behind it. So I'm going to speed this video up real quick. Okay, so that was all 12. One of the reasons that I do chain piecing, all you're going to have, see when I started, let's see if I have it here. I haven't clipped it yet. I have this really long thread, right? Well, I'm going to snip these, okay? But they're really tiny. That's all the thread I've used in between. It's just that little snippet, okay? So that's one reason. The other reason, it actually helps my machine not eat my fabric. So I just simply unconnected and I will unconnect as I go. But now I'm going to want to sew the other direction. And we'll do the same thing. The only thing is we've got to remember that we have this one that we left on the machine. When you get done through this batch, you'll still have that one left. And this is chain piecing. And it's quite simple. The one other thing I want to mention here is don't pull too hard because you are sewing on the bias and you could stretch it a little bit. So this is it, guys. This is our chain piecing. I'm going to get the rest of these done off camera and I'll come back at you with the next step. So I'll see you in just a sec. Okay, so here we are. I have already done all my half square triangles. We started with 2 3-inch squares that we put right sides together. Yep, want to make sure this was the last one. So I'm going to go ahead and if you'll notice, I sewed a little bit in, right? And depending on how much you went in, it will change how much waste you will have. But I just simply cut right down the middle. You can use scissors if you so like. I'm going to bring over a pressing board. And yep, looks like I got a lot of bling. I've been working. All right. So I go ahead and set the seam. Okay. And I'm going to press towards the dark side. Okay. Very easily. And I'll just hold it there for just a second. Yep. And we'll do that to both sides. Set the seam. Go ahead and give it another press. Being careful, don't do that. Just simply press it over, okay? And if you notice, I did overlap them. You can do that. Works great. That way you can do a lot of pressing at the same time. All right, now let me get this moved out of the way. That is the pressing. Now we're going to square our half square triangle up. Okay. Now remember, you'll do this to each of your 24 half square triangles because we started with 12 red, 12 white. Okay. You get 2 of these, as you just saw. So you should have a total of 24. Okay. Then to square it up, just like we did last week, let me move over a little bit so I can see what I'm cutting and you can see what I'm cutting. I hope. I need to pull this over just a little. I'm closer to this side. All right, you're going to line up your diagonal along the diagonal. Now I tend to put it on the valley side or on the white side because we press to the dark. So the dark side is going to be the mountain. All right. So double check. What you want to make sure when you line this up, you want to make sure that you're within 2.5 inches because we are squaring them down to each to 2.5 inches. Cut both sides. There's waist. I turn mine around and you'll do the same thing, but this time your ruler should be on the 2.5 inch on the fabric. Now, I don't know if you can see that, probably not, but I'm actually on the fabric, not over the fabric, where you can see the mat. I just want to make sure I'm still straight, and you'll just cut both sides. Oop, that didn't feel straight. There we go. You want to make sure you get them little bitty dog ears. For those of you who are new, a dog ear is this extra little triangle. You want to make sure you go through all the way. So there is one. We'll do it one more time for the second. Line her up. Making sure you're on the fabric of 2.5 inches. And I notice I know you probably can't see it, but I've got some threads that are already pulling away, so I'm coming down a little further from that white. Nope, didn't get through it. Nope, moved it just a little. Hopefully I didn't move it too much. We're going to find out. And if you have to cut another side again, that is okay. Yeah, I'm going to have to cut this one again. And that's okay. I moved it just enough that up here didn't really come out too straight. So hopefully we don't move it this time. So I'll just flip it one more time. 2.5 inch up and down. 2.5 inch, 2.5 inch. I'm straight, so I'll just finish cutting this. Here we go. All right. Now the fun begins, guys. I'm going to get this all cleaned up here in the best way possible. I'm going to take a seat with you, and we're going to start to lay this out. That was the only prep that we had to do. So now, I'm going to throw a picture up here, and we're going to use that as our guide. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start to lay this out. So I've got a 2.5 inch red. I'm working at the top row right now, and I'm following the diagram, which again, I put on top here. So, I put in the picture so you can see at the same time. I've got another red. Well, this is going to be big. Let's see if I can put it all on the camera. Okay. And then another half square triangle, and it'll go this way and that way. And another red. Okay. Now I'm on the second row. Yay, you can see it. So we'll put that here. So all of these were pressed to the dark side. It should be okay. I went through it and it looked fine to me. Now we use a white and another half square triangle and a white and a half square triangle, making sure that we have them at in the correct, where your light and your dark are facing the correct way. All right. I'm going to push this up. There we go. I'm hoping I make it in here. All right. Next one. We're on the third row. And this is exactly what I do, because this way, no, that's not right. It'll help keep you straight, because these things are going every which direction. Now, at this point, we do have the 6.5 inch square. Okay, and we will talk about that. And then we have here, and, oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, just want to make sure. All right. And then we have a red and a white. Okay, and on the other side we have a white. And a red. Okay, and then the next row. Oh, it's getting hard to see, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to push this up again. And I would encourage you to do just this. Wondering, is this 6.5 inches? I am sure it is, just by looking at it, but nope. It is, I just checked, it is 6.5. The 1/4 inch always throws me off a little bit. So, and I missed a row, didn't I? I did. I don't know what I'm thinking. Okay, we put this back. That's part of the problem. All right. This is good. Okay, so that actually goes this way. And another half square triangle goes this way. And then another half square triangle. I feel better now. It wasn't making sense because I didn't have all the rows. And like I said, this is why I do it this way, because this helps me keep straight. Now, I'm getting to a place where you're not going to be able to hear me push it up just. I can't go any further. That is all I wrote. So I want to explain a couple things here. Let me get this done. I mean, you can kind of see some still. This one. And this one. And a white. And a half square triangle. Now there's one more row, but you won't be able to see it until later. And I'll make sure to line it up before I really do start sewing. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put this very top row together. Okay. I'm just going to simply take my right sides. I'm going to do two. I'm going to do these two, and then I'm going to do these two. And then I'll sew on this third one, this last one all by itself. Okay. And then I'll add the twos together and the three and get them all. When I go to press, guys, I am going to press all of them going towards the left on this row. Okay. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on this second row. Only this one, I'm going to press them all going this direction. Okay. Now we got this big old 2.5 inch square. And if you'll look at that picture, I'll throw it up again, or 6.5 inch square. Sorry. These three rows connect. Okay. So what I will do is I will sew these two together. We press this one going that way. So this one I'll press going this way. Put these two together, press going that direction. And then I'll sew these two together, pressing that direction. These two together, pressing that direction. And then the third row that goes with the 6.5 inch square, I'm going to go ahead and sew those two together, pressing left, right, left, right, left. We'll press this one going. So I'm just alternating which way I'm pressing, okay? And I'll put these two together and press them. I think we said left, okay? Once I have these together, I will go ahead and we'll come back, because then I cannot confuse you. So I'm going to get all of the first row, all of the second row. I'm going to sew these two, these two, these two, these two, these two, and these two, pressing the correct way, and then we'll come back and talk about the next step. So notice we're not sewing on this 6.5 inch square yet, okay? So I will see you guys in just a sec. Okay, so next step. I went ahead and I sewed those each individual rows, and I went ahead and put them together, okay? Because that will be your next step, right? But let's talk about this center section. So as you see, like I talked about, I sewed these two together, these two together, and these two together. And I did the same thing over here. Then you sew all three of these together, so you get one unit, okay? And when you do that, it will match the same size to your 6.5 inch square, okay? So I'll do the same thing over here, and then I'll add this side to the center and this side to the center, and I will press going that direction, okay? Yep. I just wanted to make sure I was right. Okay. And that way, everything will nest. Once this center section it'll be one entire unit when you're done. Okay. So once you get everything attached, then you simply sew your top two together. You sew your bottom two rows together, and everything should nest, guys. And then you simply add the top and the bottom. Oh, I got bling down there. And you will have your block ready for our next step. Okay. So I hope that made sense. So you get your long rows sewn all in one long row, all your little bitty squares. Then you sew those rows, the first two rows together. You sew these two, like I said, put those 3 together, do the same thing over here so that you have 2 units like this, and then add them to your 6.5 inch block, and then you're able to add the top and the bottom. Now, if you're curious on how I'm pressing, all of these will go up. Okay, I will press when I add these, they go, this one goes up. I'm going away from the red per se. So up, this one I'm going to press going down. This one I'll press going up. This one I'm pressing going down. This one's going towards the red, going up. This one's going towards the red, going up. And I'll push these going out. So the bottom line is, the reason why is because I'm basically trying to push all the seams away from the center. That's basically it. So, except for this one right here, because that's going that way. But I'm going to go ahead and finish putting this scrumptious block together. Get her all ready. And then their next step is to talk about doing the borders. So I will be back at you in just a sec. Okay, so once you have all of your piece blocked together, yeah, of course I have this on top. Then you're going to need borders if you so desire, right? It's your quilt, no rules. You don't have to do borders. But if you decide to do borders the way I've done them, this is a 1.5 inch strip with a fabric. I ended up cutting 2 of them, because to get all the way around and do all 4 borders, it will take that much. Now I'm just laying out right on top, and I'm going to take this end and I'm simply going to fold it over right along the edge. Give it a nice finger press. Pull this out of the way and go ahead and grab a ruler right along that edge, making sure I'm doing a straight cut. And you could do that with scissors too. And I know that I need 2 of these exactly the same length. Now that block that you have constructed at this current moment without borders, it should be 14.5 inch square. However, sometimes your 1/4 inch seam slips, sometimes your fabric shifts, sometimes weird stuff happens, right? So it's okay that it's not, but I didn't pre-cut 14.5 inches because I didn't know if I was going to have any bobbles or if it was truly going to be 14.5. And mine is actually, I want to say 14.25. But there we have. Now I'll go ahead and place this on one side, this on the other, right sides together, and then I'll come back and we'll do the other end. So I'll see you guys in just a sec. Sorry, I just realized something, so I'm back at you a little early. I went ahead and folded this quilt top in half, and I'm going to take right sides together and then wrong sides together. I will fold my strip in half. Okay, and I will find the middle that way of each. Now I know you can't see it, but I can. I will lay the fold on either end. And you know, if one side is bigger than the other, then this will help square it. Because, you know, sometimes it can be off by 1/8 or so. So I will pin right in the middle, and then I'll pin on this end. And if I do have one that's bigger than the other, I will put the bigger end on the bottom. Even though there's a lot of seams that you'll have to fuss with, the feed dogs will take up any extra fabric and ease it in for you. Let me move this out of the way. So there we go. And then I will pin halfway here. And I will pin halfway here. And I will go again in the halves. And one more time. I think this should be enough. Just want to make sure they are straight and lined up. Okay, but by taking it in the middle, if your ends are a little bit short, you may have some fabric in your border that you'll need to ease in, or vice versa, right? It could be that the bottom, that your quilt top is longer up here and skinnier in here. So it really just depends. But that is why I didn't pre-cut. That's just my method. Just wanting to share that with you. It helps prevent any waving or distortion, and I think it works fantabulous, so I wanted to share it with you. But I'll see you guys in just a sec. Okay, so I do have two of the sides on, and now that they're both on and pressed, and I did press going out and away from the block to help it lay a little flatter. Now I've got another 1.5 inch strip with a fabric. I did cut off the selvage and made it a very nice line, nice and straight. And I just looking at laying it down right in the middle. I'm going to go ahead and fold it over, lining it up nice and pretty with the other border. Give it a finger press. Okay, so there's my nice finger press. Giving myself a nice straight line. Okay, here we go, and we need 2 of those. So I will just lay one on top of the other. I put the short one on top so I can see just how long it should be. Making sure it's straight. Like I said, you can use scissors for this part. But because if you fold it and crease it that one, then you could just lay another piece on, fold it, finger press it with a crease, and then use your scissors along that line. But I have folded already in half, and I finger pressed to give myself a little folded mark. I'll take one of these, and I will again fold it in half. This one I folded right sides together. This one I'll fold wrong sides together. Give it a nice finger press. Line up the 2 creases together and begin my pinning from those indentions. And do the same thing for these last 2 borders that we did earlier. So I'm going to get this done off camera, and I'll see you guys in just a sec. Okay, so once you have all those borders on, then you just baste and quilt and bind, and you are finished. Now I will say this large square in the center, that 6-inch finished in the quilt square, is a good place for you to make this something of your own. You could applique, you could do something with your quilting inside of there. You know, there's a whole lot of different things that you can do with that 6.5 inch or 6-inch finished in the quilt center. But yes, isn't it fun? I absolutely loved it. And all I did for quilting, I just did my standard stitch in the ditch, and then for the larger square, I just did stripes. Very, very simple stripes. Not a big deal. I wanted something to be easy and not stressful. You know, and just have a little fun with it, right? And actually, I did have a different design for that center, but my first stitch, I went to the wrong square. So inside that block, so I wasn't going to rip it. I just said, yep, it's time to just make stripes. So it happens, right? But at any rate, I hope you enjoyed this. I will be on Facebook Live at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as I'm here in Virginia. So for our live Q&A on Facebook, our live quilting and answers. So I hope I will see you there. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, you know the drill. Drop them down below in the comment section or come on out to the Facebook Live. But at any rate, guys, this was our last Christmas Wednesday for 2021. So until next time, may y'all continue to be inspired, productive, ever so joyful, never stop believing, and never stop making your dreams in quilting come true. I love y'all. Thanks for stopping by. Merry Christmas.